Last year, Voltron was the first real series I reviewed. I loved the show so much that I watched it a couple of times, and all in the course of the first week. Here we are past the weekend of month 2, and I'm not so sure it's as good. Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing Voltron, the Legendary Defender Season 2. Okay, just to recap for those people who weren't here last year, but first a shout out to all those dedicated fans out there who watch every episode I put out. Hi, Mom! Okay, so Voltron was an 80s cartoon based on rewrites of an anime series called Beast King Go Lion. In the story, a handful of space explorers sent by Galaxy Garrison go out to explore and adventure, and they find a mystical, legendary creature known as Voltron, a series of 5 lions that form into a super fighting robot. The enemy is King Zarkon and his evil space witch, who are trying to take over the universe. The relaunch went pretty well, even if it took some left turns on canon, and I'm not too dissatisfied with the way they did it. Earth isn't really a spacefaring race, and doesn't have fleets. The aliens are more, well, alien, and I think there's a little bit less kidisms in it, although not none. The princess is still just a princess, and I kind of get annoyed at that, but all things considered, I gave it a pretty good rating last year. Season 1 ended in a cliffhanger. After the reveal that evil King Zarkon was once the controller of Black Lion, and that he still shares a mystic bond with it, the team is flung far away and lost in time and space. That is right where we start Season 2. And since I haven't watched more than the first 4 episodes, we're going to head right into spoiler territory. So once again, it's stop. Spoiler time. So before we get too deep in, first of all, I don't like the opening sequence as much this year as I did last year. I do still like the fact that they kept the Voltron cutting its way out of the moon, but other than that, there's not much action in it. I don't know if it's the same exact opening we had last time, or if it's just something that I'm not digging, but for some reason, I remember being more excited each episode starting. But let's start with episode 1. Well, episodes 1 and 2. So episodes 1 and 2 are really just getting the band back together episodes, and I spent a lot of time over the years complaining about the resetting of status quos at the beginning of new seasons when cliffhangers had everything thrown out the window. So I guess I'll start with saying that this wasn't as bad as others I've seen, although at the end of the day, if we were just going back, there was no reason for it to be quite the cliffhanger it was. But I'll start with the good parts, the humor. I think Coran and the Allura stuff was predictable, but it still brought a smile to my face, if not a laugh. I knew as soon as the de-aging thing started that we were going to get a shot of her holding him as a baby before it was done. I did also like Pidge, or should I say Kate, going a little nuts being alone, because, come on, isolation, right? The Keith and Shiro part was okay, but unlike last season, at no point did I buy into the danger. At no point was I like, ooh, Shiro might die from that wound. The second episode also suffered from that a bit. Hunk and Lance, not unexpectedly, were not really again in much danger. At no point did I think, ooh, something bad's gonna happen to them. But the twist was kinda cool, and although Pidge the girl or Zarkon the Black Paladin were really, really cool twists, this twist was at least decent. Not as good, but good. There's part of me that wonders if the writer's room decided that eating the space plant is the new drinking the Kool-Aid. It had a really nice theme that I appreciate the entire second part. I like the whole idea of cults and the modern question of how much freedom would you trade for safety. I do wonder, though, how much of that they meant and how much of that's just they were writing a cool episode. I also wonder if the electricity joke went over most viewers' heads, because the end of the episode is the guy underwater saying, I've got this idea, and he's been wrong about everything leading up till now. It's called electricity. Well, electricity and water don't mix very well, do they? And it's not exactly 100% status quo, because the castle's still on the run and Shiro's hurt, and that leads us into episode 3. Episode 3 is both great and horrible. It's funny, but this is a really deep subject that they're skirting, racism. And the idea that Allura says everything just short of the only good Galra is a dead Galra. I wonder if we're going to see some evil members of her own race before the end of the season, just to finish rounding out that whole not everything that's similar is good, and you shouldn't always beware the other. There were some great thought-provoking moments in this episode, and it's tied together with a big battle. That's where we get into a problem. The original show was formulaic. Robeast would come, Voltron fights it, Voltron's on the ropes, then it uses one of its big weapons to destroy it, the day is saved, yay, rinse, repeat. So I'm normally very happy that this formula is not rinse-repeat on this show. We have all sorts of different enemies, we have multiple aliens, we have storylines that run into each other and don't get resolved easily. But on the other hand, hey, this guy that was just introduced this episode, and has info and allies that would be helpful to you, and he's going to self-sacrifice to destroy the unbeatable monster that somehow is immune to all of your best attacks. That's not really much more satisfying. I do have to wonder, though, about that Keith reveal at the end. Was that dagger shown last season? I've watched the season twice and I don't remember it. Maybe it's something new. I wonder if the fantasy racism will extend to him having some sort of ancestral ties. Maybe not. At the end of last year, I guessed that we would see alien tech falling into the hands of Galaxy Garrison. Now, I'm not saying ancient aliens, but it could be ancient aliens. And with that, we go to Episode 4. Episode 4, The Greening Cube, shows just how awesome the writing team can be when they want to put real stakes into the episode. And the aliens look and feel alien. They even touch on religion a little bit with some New Age post-humanism pretty well. I do really hope that Techno-Wizard Pidge, or Kate, is a sign of character growth. In general, this is everything that an episode of the new Voltron should be. We're introduced to a set of bad guys. We're introduced to a set of good guys. We're introduced to the fact that the good guys need help from Voltron. We're introduced to the fact that Voltron is a legendary defender, tee-hee, and the fact that they have legends about him. We're shown just why they need the help. We're shown that there's a twist in there somewhere, so, everything is exactly what it says on the tin, or everything exactly as it should be. And at the same time, we still have the Galran Empire moving and expanding, and we didn't need to fall back on Hagar Magic, and we didn't need to fall back on Robeast. We didn't even have to fall back on King Zarkon this time. At the end of the day, the villains made sense. They fit the world, the universe. And the heroes were just good heroes. They went to help people, and they did. And the fact that they got a little toy out of it at the end, along with an ally that's much needed, is really just icing on the cake. I wish all the episodes were written this well. And now that we have to talk about Episode 5, not all of them were. Eye of the Storm is back to a kiddified episode. Yeah, the lions are on the run, but, to be honest, at no point do you ever actually feel like King Zarkon is going to get them. They're going to have an ingenious trick up their sleeve. And you know it, right from the beginning. And they forecast it with Pigeon Hunk with the cookie recipe. If you haven't seen it, you wouldn't understand. But one of the main thrusts is the fact that one of the main characters who gets a lot of the laughs, Gran goes full-on slapstick, silly kid stuff funny as he's sliding around, and it just was so ridiculous. I mean, there were scenes where literally it was just slapstick, him sliding around. Hunk didn't fare much better, not understanding the difference between a glass crystal and a cookie. And you know what? I know it's a kid's show. I know it's a cartoon. I should go easier on it. But point blank, so far these episodes have been so amazingly great that I just expect more from them. And that episode just failed me. Overall, 5 episodes in, I'm not anywhere near as impressed with Season 2 as I was with Season 1. I'm still liking it. I'll try to get to a Part 2 of this review up soonish. But let me just say my 2 biggest complaints are both about the women of the show. The princess needs to be considered a queen, because you're a queen when you're in charge, and she obviously is. And it's too easy to forget Paige is actually Kate. I don't want to thrown in your face all the time, but it almost seems like that big foreshadowed moment just falls flat now. Like there's not much going on with it. And I don't understand why. I will say my prediction is we're going to see another big badass Robeast fight, and that we're going to see those saboteurs show up again, and that Keith's lineage is going to be called into question, and maybe even one of Alora's race is going to show up. I don't know what you guys think, but if you like this and other things that I do, share, like, and comment on this video, and of course subscribe for new content, because I'm trying to build a community so that we can explore all stories, big and small, for kids and for adults, to walk through the heart of the stories we tell. Thanks for watching.